Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in today. Just letting a couple extra people in from the waiting room. We are super excited. I don't know if you can tell from some fun earrings and Lindsay's fun little hat, but we are very much in the mood for spooky season already. So
Yeah.
we kind of have a Halloween themed, it might be a little early session today, and we're going to look at some of our favorite tools together, Newline and Merlyn Display. So we're gonna have a ton of fun. I have got a couple little housekeeping things to get us started with. So the first thing, if you have questions throughout the session, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that. I'll get it to Lindsay and Kristen during the session if I can interject at all. Otherwise, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So ask your questions in that chat. We'll try to get those answered before the end of the session. The second thing is, if you are interested in getting that free coffee, which I don't know why you wouldn't be, it's pumpkin spice season. You got to stick around until the end. Yeah, Kristen's got hers. Stick around until the end. Take the exit survey, and then you will be good to go. And we can get that all sent out in the next couple days, and you'll have some free coffee. So that is all for me. You guys never come to listen to me talk. I know that for sure. So I'm going to pass it off swiftly to my friends, Lindsay and Kristen, to get us rolling today. Thanks.
All right. Hi, you guys. My name is Lindsay Keeley. I'm a teaching and learning consultant with Trifera.
Same thing, Kristen Dupuy, teaching and learning consultant. And we are super excited to bring this to y'all today. This is something we've been passionate about for, gosh, have we been dealing with Merlyn for a year and a half, almost 2 years? And the Merlyn synced up with Newline, and we now have this Merlyn display. You can see our display behind us and our sleek remote. So what we're doing today is we're doing a basic introduction to Merlyn with Newline. And y'all, it's exciting. It's just something that teachers will get excited about. So ask questions, join in, and we're gonna get started, huh, Linz?
Yep. Kate, next slide. So this is what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to talk about what is Merlyn Display. Like we're saying these words, what does that mean? So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how Newline and Merlyn combined. That was hard. And what it gives you. Then we'll talk about what you get with Merlyn, the voice control, your air mouse, the chat feature, and then prep time AI. So we don't have a whole lot of time, so we're just going to jump in and get started. So next slide, Kate. Okay, and what is Merlyn? Merlyn is like your classroom BFF. It's like your AI assistant in the classroom. It is safe, it's engaging, and it is super easy to use. And so let's talk about safety first, because we know that's going to be the most important thing for school systems. Merlyn is FERPA and COPA compliant. So what that means is you can use it in the classroom and not have to worry about student data being compromised, your data being compromised. They do not sell any personal information. We are talking about voice control. It does not retain the voice audio that you give it. So if you say something in there, it's not saved to be used at a later date. Any searches that you do are not retained so they can figure out what people are searching for. You're not going to have, if you're searching for vacuums, it's not going to have vacuum ads popping up on your phone from Merlyn.
That's my favorite thing.
I don't know why vacuums came up in my head, but it did. They limit the retention of text transcripts, and they don't use voice audio to identify you. So it's not going to start recognizing your voice and saying, oh, hey, Lindsay, what you need today? So just know it is super safe and secure for the classroom.
In fact, it does like a complete wipe of the system. So there's no saved data. So you really don't have to worry about it listening in the background. It is completely safe. And there has been, I know we were waiting for Merlyn Display for a while, but we know that it's because they're putting that safety first and they're making sure the compliance is all there for our schools.
Yep. Okay. Next slide.
Kate, I'm going to come up with a motion like, whoa. What if I do that when it's time to switch the slides?
Do this.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Like a swipe.
Okay. And y'all, this is the stuff that's going to come up naturally. This is just some of the highlights of it being integrated with Merlyn. Of course, we've got the AI. It's going to drive some native apps and things that are on our Newline panel. We can use our voice. There is some content that we're going to show you that is vetted and it's proprietary to Merlyn, and you can access it through all of your software. And again, like Lindsay really put a lot of emphasis on, is private, safe, and secure. I'm gonna do sound effects too.
All right, so
I'm
remote.
gonna do the bottom half.
Okay, I'll do the top. So we're going to talk about the remote that you get with Merlyn. So with Merlyn Display, and I will tell you, there are two types. There's Merlyn Origin, which works on your computer, and then you have Merlyn Display, which functions on the panel. So it's two different things, but they work similarly. But I will tell you, with Merlyn, this is what you need to control it. And so you guys, for teachers, they can have this remote. There's a little connector at the end where they can have it on their wrist, walk around the classroom, and then they're able to move away from the front of the room, walk around the room, do what they need to do, give voice commands, use the air mouse to control that panel and pull up things that they need. So it really frees them from being stuck here and giving them that mobility that they need to kind of watch students, help students, monitor, whatever they need to do. So the top, I'll talk about the top buttons, and I know it's kind of hard to see here, but you've got your overlay, your power button. You've got push to talk. So I want to stress that it is not always listening to what I'm saying. I actually have to push that button to give the command. So that's one of the safety features that you have, is you have to push that button in order to give commands to Merlyn. The air mouse button is right here. The middle orange button right here. I should have done my nails in the Halloween stuff. But the middle orange button here is going to bring out your little overlay that's on the panel. And then you have these the D-pad where you can scroll up and down. You have your select button in the middle. So that's the top part.
Yeah, the bottom, y'all, you can see what it does. You have your normal back buttons. I would like to put some emphasis on, there's a chat button there, and we will go into that with y'all, but the chat is going to bring up a way to be able to easily ask questions and things that really happen during the class time. So they gave us easy access to that. And then it's going to do some controls that are native to the panel. So switch your display or freeze your screen, and very easily control your volume on your panel. So they really take what was already in the Newline remote, just basic tools here, but then also integrate that AI with that with the chat feature.
Okay, so let's talk about the overlay. So with the panel, you have the remote. There is an app that you do need to download. When you download that app, it's going to make you register. But the overlay, if you'll notice on the right side of my panel, there's a little orange button. Kristen has the same one. You've got that button, and you've got the button that's on your remote. That will bring out that overlay as well. What that overlay does is it does give you some suggestions, but there's also some other additional features there, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So, Kate, whoosh. Perfect. All right. So you've got suggestions, but then down at the bottom, you've got the chat feature, which you've got the chat feature here. You've got the chat feature on your remote, and then you can just talk to open the chat feature. What I like, and what I will use 95% of the time from here, is the Find My Remote button. So I was famous for putting down things in my classroom when I was teaching, and then standing there and saying, okay, guys, who sees my pen? Who sees my overhead button? Whatever I needed. So with Find My Remote, if you set your remote down, you have that little button there, and I hope y'all can hear it. It's going to do, when you hit it, it's going to do that little ding, 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 ding. I'm doing the sound for you.
Hear it. Let me press mine. Can y'all hear it?
No.
It's cute. It makes a sound.
It's like a little fun jingle, like doo, 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 boop, 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 whatever it does. So that is going to be so helpful for your teachers. You can find your remote. You've also got the Explore feature, which that's going to give you some guides. It's going to take you to training. And I'm telling y'all, the training that they supply is super easy to use and run through, and really gives you a good overview of what it does.
Yeah, and I'll talk to y'all about the chat. The button is either on the screen on the overlay or on the remote, like we said, and we're going to go into that a little bit deeper. But all of this to say is that this lives on your panel. When you open, or when you press the little orange button, it pops out. And I'm in Canva, so it's giving a drum roll as well. But if you close it, it goes away. So it just lives there natively.
Whoosh.
Whoosh. We're losing our oof.
Okay,
so this is something that this is probably like the big beefy part of what this display remote can do for us. So there's things that we do as a teacher where we are up at the front of the classroom and you naturally have to touch your panel. What Newline and Merlyn have done is they have taken us away from the front of the classroom to where we can use this remote to be able to not touch our panel. Okay, so I can adjust the volume. So if I'm on YouTube and I know you can't hear my volume because there's noise suppression, let me squat down. I'm really tall, but I'm not that tall, so I'm gonna squat. If I'm watching something with volume and I don't want to run up to the front of the classroom or press the volume button 15 times, I can just say adjust volume to 25% and it will lower it. Or I can say put it on a level 1, level 2. There's different ways you can do that. Take a screenshot is really fun. Let's say your kids are at the board doing something and you just want to capture it for later. You can just tell it, take a screenshot and it will save it. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I do want to show this go to home or switch your sources. So I have my other device plugged into the front and I'll show that right here and then we'll move on. Unless Lindsay, you want to interject. Go to source, go to HDMI 1. I said that wrong. But it still got it right.
It knew what it needed to do.
Yeah, it did. And it does have some voice controls that come with it, and you get comfortable with them. We've been playing with it for a few weeks now, and we've known Merlyn for a while, but the display is new. Go home, and it'll go back to my source, my where I was.
So no more running to the front of the classroom to switch your sources. You can just tell it, hey, do this. Hey, go home. Hey, go to my source. It's awesome. Whoosh. Okay, that's a great question that I saw just pop up in the chat. So Merlyn Display is going to work on the Q Pro panel and the Q series. So the Q Pro is the one that was recently released. It's the latest iteration of the Newline panel. Q is the Q series is the one that was there before. So if you have either one of those at this time, Merlyn can work on both of those. As far as anything prior to this, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think they're there yet. So Merlyn Display will work with the Q series and the Q Pro. Great question.
Yeah, and there's other conversations we could have, but to get this full control with your panel, it's going to be the Q or the Q Pro.
Absolutely. Okay, so voice control. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. This is something that came from the Merlyn training. This is like some of the voice controls that you do have on here. We're actually just going to show you some of the things that you can do. And so one of the first things I'll tell you is, and you can swoosh, Kate. One of the first things that teachers do all the time or that they need is that timer. So notice again, I have to press and hold. I'm just going to say, start a 5-minute timer. And then you'll notice behind me, boop, my little timer is up there and it's counting down the 5 minutes. So no matter where I am, I can tell it 30 seconds. I can tell it a minute, 20 seconds, whatever I need. I just tell it what to do and it's going to open that timer for me. That's one of the easiest things that it does. Another thing that you can do is you can tell it, I have my drive on here. I'm going to say, I'm looking for my presentation that I need to do today. Open my drive. And it's going to open my Google Drive behind me. And then I can use the D-pad and the air mouse to go through my folders, find the file that I'm looking for, open it up quick and easy. If you tell it, let's say I know I have a YouTube video that I want to show, I can say, open YouTube, and it is going to open my Chrome browser and open another tab for me with YouTube. And then I can navigate to the video that I need to open.
Open YouTube. I'm just getting some stuff prepped. I was whispering, it didn't work.
That was very sneaky. Open YouTube. So you can see you don't have to holler into it either. You can silently or very softly tell it.
Just like we always talk in our classroom, so mellow. Everybody listens when you whisper. So does Merlyn when you press that button.
That's right. That's right. Okay, Kate, you can swoosh. So these are the apps that it will control on your panel. You can pull up annotation. This is an Android OS. Good question, Anthony. This is an Android OS right now.
As far as I know, even nothing Merlyn is running on a Chrome OS at this point.
Not yet. No, they're working on it, but it's not there. But yeah, you can tell it to open up casting. So if I want to cast to my panel, I can, and I'm in the back of the room, I can say open cast. It's going to open up for me, and then I'm able to start that casting session. Or if I want to open Drive or open my sheets, All I have to do is give it that voice control and it is going to open. So like, let's try it with the whiteboard. I'm going to say open whiteboard.
I was hoping mine would hear you.
Open whiteboard.
When I covered my mouth, did it make it be more discreet?
No, it just sounded, you sounded like the teacher from Charlie Brown.
Good. That's what I was going for. Mission accomplished.
Perfect.
That's my trick or treat costume.
I love it. So notice my whiteboard is behind me. I've got it open. And so again, you're moving your teachers from being stuck in the front of the classroom to control things and giving them that freedom to move about the room and still do things on the panel that they need to do. Another thing I will point out is I'm going to go to my Chrome browser. So give me just a second.
And y'all, even though we have Merlyn in our hand and we're doing things remotely, you still have full control of your panel. It's not like you're losing one. You just have joint control. And I want to interject with you, Lindsay. You opened up whiteboard, and I know if you don't know me, I'm a skeptical person. I'm gonna ask all the questions. So my whole thing, yeah, like everybody in the room just went, she's self-aware. I'm self-aware. I know this. But I was like, why would I want the whiteboard to open remotely when I'm gonna use the whiteboard with my hands or with my tools? So Lindsay, why don't you tell us why is that valuable?
Open whiteboard. So you can see I've got, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but I've got this diagram already up here. And so the idea for this activity and with the whiteboard in general is you really want to get the students up and doing things on the panel. So with that, if I have students coming up, and this is a water cycle diagram, and so I want my students to come up and I want them to label the parts of the water cycle. What I can do in the whiteboard is I can tell it. So I have a student coming up. You guys know when your students are writing anything in the whiteboard, they're going to spend like 15 to 20 seconds trying to pick out the perfect pen color. Well, you can actually change the pen color. And so if I have a student coming up to my panel and I want them to write where evaporation is showed on this diagram, I can say, change pen color to blue, so that when they walk up and pick up the pen and start writing, it is going to write in blue. And so they have no control over the color of the pen. I do. But it's a quick and easy way to pull up the things that you need, and then you get your students up there and they're doing things and interacting with the panel. Anything else, Kristen?
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah. And she also can use that remote to like the air mouse to write and do things. It's not as fluid, but let's say from the back of the classroom, the kids are not figuring out where they're supposed to be writing. She can use that air mouse, like you see it right there, to kind of get them on the right track.
Like, I want you to write, that's terrible, but like we're focusing on this area.
But it gives the idea, and you don't have to hover over the kids. The kids have the independence to be up there without the teacher attached at the hip.
Yes. Perfect.
Thank you for that. Okay. Thank you for answering my curiosity.
Welcome. Okay, and then with the Chrome browser, right now, the only thing you can do is have it open. So like if I needed to open YouTube, I needed to open Drive, I needed to open Classroom, I can give those voice commands and it will do that. What is coming is the ability for you to say, like, search YouTube for a video on the water cycle, or search YouTube or search Newzella for an article on whales, and it will pull up that website and then do that search that you're asking for. So it's gonna have it's got some cool features now, and then they're just gonna make it better, y'all. So I'm so excited for where this is going. Okay,
and let me don't go off yet. So I just opened up Go Noodle on mine. So this is my skeptical brain here. Like, why do I want it to open something if I'm still gonna have to come up here to touch it? So I opened up, I don't know if y'all could hear me whisper, I was super secretive. I said, open Go Noodle. And so I am there, and now I can scroll and look for what I'm looking for and use the air mouse to pick one. So I am still 100% untethered. John, there's a whole generative piece, or the generative AI that we're going to go into in a second. That is Merlyn. It's a program that they have attached with this. So we're going to go into that as well.
Yep.
Okay, swoosh.
So the next part is just talking about the air mouse. Y'all, it's like a Wii. If you ever had a Wii, that's kind of what it is. But again, you have that button to turn it on and off. So right now my air mouse is not on. If I needed it on, I would just hit the air mouse button. Then it gives me my mouse and I'm able to click. I'm able to go home. I'm able to do the things that I want to do without really having to walk up to the panel and do it. So I want to get out of my timer. I'm going to go ahead and exit this. And once it gets like a little bit off, you can always recenter it. It's really easy to use. And we tested how far back you can go. And in my house, I walked all the way from where my panel is to the other side of the room, and I was still able to control my panel with the air mouse. So you have like, you can definitely be in the back of your classroom and still control the panel.
Yes. Swoosh. All right, so we are getting into a little bit more of the AI stuff. So far, we've talked about the untethered features, which is kind of how Merlyn has put everything in a nice box. But we talked about this chat bot that comes up. So not to bring her up, but there's this little thing that lives in another room of my house that I ask questions to all the time. I probably should be smarter than that, but sometimes I just want to know how long I need to air fry chicken, and it's just nice to have it without having to look further. But Merlyn has a chat bot too. Again, it lives on the overlay, or we have the button that will open. So just from being in the back of the classroom, let's say that my kids were studying something, and you know they're going to have a random question, and I don't really have time to set aside to be able to go into it. But if some kids can't get past it until you ask the question. So I opened up chat. I'm just going to ask the question. I'm really bad at questions impromptu, so I'm just going to stick to what I know. How far is the Earth from the moon? And it's just going to go into the Merlyn chat and give me some information. I don't know if y'all can see it well, but it's giving me some sources with images and some links I can go to. It will read it to me if I have my volume up, so we can get that question out of the way and move on. It does. Lindsay's really good for this. I ask a lot of questions. She likes to test the boundaries, and she has asked it some things that probably are no-nos for the classroom. And did you find anything that worked, Lindsay?
No, and I'll tell you, like if I asked it, like tell me about the origins of World War II, some of that stuff is going to be censored because it's deeming it as not school appropriate. So I will also tell you, when it does pull up those search results, you get a thumbs up and a thumbs down. If the results are good and what you asked for, you can rate that. Y'all, if you have this and you're using it, go ahead and use those ratings so that Merlyn can continue to get better. Yep, it's on your remote or on the screen. And it will also give you the sources from where it's pulling that information in the chat so that you have, like, it's not just pulling it from some random website. It's going to pull it from reputable sources, and it's going to give you the links to what it's going. But I mean, think about anytime you're teaching and students they get curious and they ask questions. This is a way to keep them engaged in the lesson, and you don't even have to open chat. If you just ask the question, it is going to pull up the chat and ask the question for you. It is phenomenal.
And you're right, Anna. This is a way to validate the curiosity. Again, I was that kid in class. Hey, tell me about, or your brain's going 15 steps ahead. I even love the idea of, we're going to save time for the end of class for kids to touch this remote. Take this and you ask Merlyn questions. Maybe they write some questions down like we do as business professionals, like what do we call it? The parking lot. So you have a parking lot. Now let's ask Merlyn chat. And it is safe. It's appropriate. Like I've even thought some of the questions we ask it were safe, and because they were kind of on the fence because it doesn't know if we're working with second graders or eighth graders, it just deemed it, let's just not fool with it. Okay. Assuming we're done with that, because I keep talking.
We talked about that.
Yeah, we just did that.
Swoosh.
This is what Lindsay did, the up and the down, thumbs up, thumbs down. You do have the links to your sources, but you also have some images as well, and they do look at that feedback. And you can clear your chat history. So like if you know you got a new class coming in and you don't want them to see what you've been chatting, just clear it. Okay, I am going to go into, let me close this, and I am going to go into something that is special to Merlyn. And I know that you're having to look at it through my screen, but when you have the origin, you have to create a Merlyn account. That's just part of getting it set up. And you can see we have a screen capture right there. That's probably easier to see. But whenever you are in your landing page for Merlyn, all the tutorials Lindsay was talking about are there. I don't know why it signed me out. But you also have what they call as Prep Time AI. And this is a specific LLM that is owned by Merlyn. It is, everything is Merlyn done. And you basically have a lesson builder and an AI or a rubric builder. Now, I've already done this many times or several times. I've cleared it out, but I'm just going to go into my history to show y'all. I pulled up one for, this was in May, I did this, writing with figurative language. Whenever you create one, you can put in your standards, you can put in your grade level, and you can be very, very specific. This was the rubric that it created for me. I went to Rubric AI, but I did not have to go to any of those other sources. This was all developed within Merlyn. Now, here's the difference, because I use the other ones as well. The difference is when I'm doing it in the Merlyn Prep Time AI, I know that it is truly vetted. It is something that is, it's going to be okay for me to use. I'm not going to have to dig through it and see if there's anything inappropriate. And just like with other AIs or any other kind of generative AI, when I export it, I can adjust it. So it's not like it's the end all be all. So this was a rubric. Let me go into my, let me go back.
So while she's pulling it back, I'll tell you, when you're building out the lessons, it's going to let you choose if you have Common Core state standards. It's going to let you put that stuff in there. You can get very, very granular as far as what you're looking for, and it's all selections built in so that it's super easy. And then, and I'm sorry, Kristen, if you were going to say this, you can also like pick the kind of activities that you want to include with its guided, individual, or group. You can do an entry or an exit ticket, and you can ask for differentiation activities and given some considerations. And so if you've got students, I need an activity for students that have extended time to complete this, or I need activities for students that are visually impaired, that sort of thing. You can get that granular in there and it will give you some information, some good information.
So I pulled up a prior lesson I built like back in May, and it because I went to that existing chat or that existing lesson, it recognized that's what I was using, and I just told it create some materials for this lesson. It went as far as to give me the assessment ideas, the instructions, and an answer key. And there's more materials that it attached. So it's nice that it's all built in and that comes with your Merlyn software. It's all part of your platform. And so we definitely like to highlight the fact that you get a rubric builder and a lesson builder.
Absolutely. I hated building out rubrics, but I know that they're so important. So this is just phenomenal that it gives you that.
And look, I know I'm not going to go into it, but this is what your personal dashboard looks like. And you can learn all of this. There's really, really cool thing called Merlyn University. So your teachers, rest assured that your teachers don't necessarily have to lean on you as heavily as they might, you would think, for something brand new, because it walks and talks them through that. In fact, I do want to give some credit to Merlyn University, because a lot of our resources that we use for this, we pulled from there, because they're phenomenal. They are teachers. We are pretty close with several of the people on staff there, and they listen and they really think about teachers using this stuff like on a daily.
Yep. So just to finish up, this is like the first iteration of Merlyn Display. This is what is on the Newline panel now, but they are constantly working to improve. And so they're going to add more things that you can do, which is fantastic. But just what I can do now makes me love it so much, because I'm able to be mobile. And that's one of the things that we hear from so many people is, yeah, I love the panel, but I don't want to have to stand up here and be up here the whole time. I need to be moving about my classroom. This gives you, the teachers, the freedom to do that and to control what they need to on the panel. It's just wonderful. Along with the lesson builder and rubric builder, like that's just lagniappe. That's just extra. Sorry, y'all. That's a Louisiana is a little something extra.
Can you please ask Merlyn what lagniappe is? Kate, if you'll go through the next two slides, not too quickly, but this will give you a close-up of the lesson builder and how granular you can get right there. And it'll generate it, and the rubric builder looks the same. Okay, you can go again. All right, we always like to put a plug for our Trafera PD. There's some people in the room with us today that are part of this team. There's a team of TLCs, and we have really worked hard to create some online courses. So if you're already an existing customer of us, reach out to one of us or your rep, and we'll get you set up with it. If you don't know how to use it yet, Trafera PD is fabulous. We're going to be developing some content for this Merlyn too. But we've got all kinds of good stuff in there.
And we have trails, and we do What's Up Wednesday, and that's us.
Look at that. I know them girls.
That was so fun, Kristen and Lindsay. That was amazing. So if anyone has any questions, again, feel free to put them in the chat right now. I'm going to launch our exit survey. So again, that is how you get coffee.
Get your coffee, y'all.
You can.
I've been sipping my coffee the whole time. It's a shame. And y'all, it's beautiful here in Louisiana. I just want to be outside on a swing sipping my coffee.
Oh man, don't we all?
I know.
Thank you so much, Lindsay and Kristen. That was a hoot. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We will just kind of say goodbye at this point. We'll leave the exit survey up for you to complete. And that's all, folks. Thanks for joining us today. Happy Halloween. We'll see you next time.